the show, we always show you something that's trending on social media. How about this? You couldn't get close to court 6 yesterday. Alex Eala playing over there. This was a wild, wild scene, Martina.
Well, Lindsay was trying to get there. She couldn't. A lot of people, I mean, it's amazing that people were so nicely standing in line, but they would be there for at least an hour if they ever got to the match. So kudos to the fans. The players have no idea this is happening.
The moment Alex Eala stepped onto a smaller court at the Madrid Open, something felt off, and by the end of the match it felt like everything had gone wrong at once. How does a player who usually commands massive crowds suddenly lose that advantage overnight? Was it just bad luck? Or did that quiet decision tilt things in favor of Elise Mertens before the match even began?
So Alex lost the first set, but she came back in the second. And then down 4-0 on the third set, but still managed to win the game. That is grit. That's not quitting, even when it's uncomfortable. Watching that match reminded me that, there's always a break coming. And sometimes you just have to be patient long enough to see it. And while everyone was cheering for Alex, I also felt for Sasnovich. Because everyone has a story, and everyone is fighting for something. And she was just chill.
The schedule came out without any fuss, and somehow that understated release made things feel even more suspicious, because when a player known for drawing loud, passionate crowds suddenly slips under the radar, it usually means something is not quite right.
So I remember attending the first round of her match, which was a tough match at the US Open, and then I went back home, and then I was contemplating coming back, and I wanted to witness her win, because I think she has such an amazing head on her shoulders, and the game, and I think she has a voice and a platform that's going to transcend the sport, and as we know now, sport is not just tennis, it's fashion, it's art, it's culture, it's having a platform, and I think she does brilliantly of merging all of those together.
At first, the Madrid Open carried the energy everyone expected, packed with excitement, anticipation, and the promise of high-level tennis. But then, almost without anyone noticing, one of the tour's most crowd-pulling names was relocated away from center stage. No announcement, no explanation, just silence. And it was in that subtle shift where the trouble began. Unexpected turn.
Alex, great job out there today. First match in these high altitude conditions.
Yes.
How did it feel?
It felt great. I think the intensity was really high throughout the whole match, so I'm really happy to have been able to pull through. Yeah.
You were fantastic on your serve today. You won 76% first serve points, saved 5 out of 6 break points, so you put yourself in good position. What did you do particularly well on your service games?
I think that was one of the things going into the match that I really had to focus on, was a good percentage of first serves. I know Anastasia's a big hitter, so I think that helped with my match today, and yeah, a lot of focus.
Seemed to be very happy to be back on the clay. How was your relationship with the surface at the moment?
Because here is the thing about Alex Eala that raw statistics simply cannot capture. She is not just another promising name climbing the rankings, and she is not a player simply waiting for her breakthrough moment. She is a living, breathing source of atmosphere, a magnet for passion and electricity that follows her across every city and every continent. Her presence alone changes the emotional temperature of a venue before a single ball is even struck. Whenever she walks out to compete, particularly at a marquee event like Madrid, the entire mood of the venue shifts, regardless of whether the organizers like it or not.
With the same mentality as every match, same mentality as today, she's a big player. So I have to be ready for what she's gonna bring out, and trust that I will prepare well.
Yeah, pero you have you've beaten her before, so that's really gonna help boost your confidence na kahit defending champion siya dito, world number 2 na, kaya mo mag-repeat, di ba? Pero every game na is different.
Yeah, I would say every game is different, and just because I beat her last time, it's not like, oh.
That is why what followed felt like far more than a routine scheduling call. It carried real weight. The opening round against Anastasia Pavlova had gone smoothly. The setting, the crowd, the flow of her game, all of it clicked into place the way it should. She performed with confidence, delivered for her supporters, and generated exactly the kind of electric moment her fans traveled to witness. It was the version of Eala that her followers know best: composed, competitive, and capable of rising with the occasion. Then came the second round, and the atmosphere changed completely. The tournament quietly assigned her to Court 5, a smaller, lower-profile venue that instantly stripped away the energy she relies on. On paper, professionals are expected to perform regardless of the setting. But those who follow Eala closely understand that her tennis is deeply connected to crowd energy. She feeds off the noise, the momentum shifts, and the emotional charge that fills a stadium when thousands of voices are behind her. Removing that is not a minor inconvenience. It is like pulling the electricity from a performance and expecting the same result.
Bigger show court. She's, I think, the most famous female from the Philippines, certainly one of the most famous people ever to come through there in the sporting world. And there were so many fans here who were just waiting to get in there. I wanted to go see Alicia Parks play.
Yep.
It was like, you weren't getting anywhere near that court.
I tell you what, between her and Fonseca, there's going to be no more outside courts allowed for both of them pretty soon.
Yeah, you cannot put Fonseca on court 6.
No.
That is
No. He's on today. He's on one of the arenas.
bigger courts, that's for sure. But that's the 101,000 fans. It creates a problem on the smaller courts.
Well, I think the organizers need to keep more in mind where the players are from and what the
And just like that, the contrast became obvious. From the very first exchanges against Mertens, Eala looked like a different player compared to who she had been just one round earlier. The rhythm was absent, the spark inconsistent, and the weight of the moment seemed heavier without the familiar roar of support surrounding her. Mertens, seasoned and calm, recognized the opportunity and exploited it, precisely dictating rallies, controlling tempo, and gradually pulling the match out of reach. By the final score, it was not a narrow defeat. It was a comprehensive one that left very few openings in the numbers but raised many questions in the minds of those paying attention. Nobody is suggesting Eala would have certainly won on a bigger court. That would be an oversimplification. But the real question is whether she would have been able to fight back more effectively to find momentum when she needed it most, and to make the contest genuinely competitive if the environment had suited her strengths. Filipino supporters do not simply fill seats. They create atmospheres that rival football stadiums, bringing chants, color, and an intensity that can physically shift the energy of a match in ways that statistics cannot measure.
A dream that kind of like when I'm in a red carpet, I'll wear what's called the Filipiniana, and it's a very traditional Filipino formal wear. And I was like, it's perfect. Laureus Sports Awards. This is my first major red carpet, and I was like, this is the time. But I was kind of like, oh, how are we gonna execute? Because we're in Spain, you know. And my uncle is a well-known fashion designer in the Philippines, so we called him up, and I told him, I was like, I want this. Can you make it happen? And in a couple days, it was shipped.
Instead, what played out on Court 5 felt noticeably subdued. The usual surge of crowd support was diminished. During the pivotal moments where Eala might have drawn on that collective energy to push through difficulty, the voices simply were not there in the numbers she is used to. Each error felt more costly. Each dropped point felt harder to shake. And gradually, the gap widened beyond recovery. To add to the frustration, late in the second set Eala received a warning from the chair umpire, a small moment in isolation, but one that landed heavily in the context of a match already slipping away. It disrupted her concentration at the worst possible time and made an already difficult afternoon feel even more draining. The player who typically exits a court surrounded by noise and warmth walked off Court 5 in a silence that felt entirely out of place. What makes this episode particularly puzzling is how most tournaments typically treat players of Eala's profile. Organizers generally recognize the value she brings well beyond the match itself in terms of fan attendance, broadcaster interest, and the buzz she generates around an event. Putting her on a main court is a decision that benefits everyone involved. More fans attend, the event gains energy, and Eala herself gets to operate in the conditions where she genuinely thrives. So when Madrid chose otherwise, it was a decision that deserved scrutiny. Was it a simple logistical call, or did the organizers underestimate the cascading effect of relocating one of the tour's most crowd-magnetic names when it came to ticket sales?
You know, I'd have to say maybe a little bit of Sonia Mirza. Back in her heyday, obviously the Indian fans took to her and they followed her all around the globe. Obviously not to this extent, and I think the ceiling that Alex Eala has is obviously that much higher.
Placing her on a main stage is never purely about sport. It is about the full experience of a professional tennis event, and everything that comes with it. Still, if there is one quality that defines Eala, it is the ability to move forward without dwelling. Even as her singles run ended earlier than expected, her schedule remained full. Her doubles appearance alongside Zeynep Sönmez offered a fresh opportunity, even if the challenge of facing the second-seeded pairing of Katerina Siniakova and Taylor Townsend looked steep on paper. But for someone building toward bigger moments, matches against top-level opponents even under difficult odds carry their own kind of value. Growth often happens fastest when the expectations are low and the pressure to perform is removed entirely. Young duo.
Never expected anything like this, sa totoo lang, because syempre Philippines is not really on the map here 6 months ago. Nung nanalo si Alex and she's getting a really good world ranking, she's doing well in the tournaments, she's beating champions, she's beating world number ones. That's given it so much great exposure for the Filipinos out here. That sometimes wtatennis, sometimes part ng mga barkada kasama and then they go hit around. But now sometimes some of them will want to teach their children and hone their skills, so when they get older, they might have potential, reaching the same potential as...
But in many ways, that appearance represented something greater than a single result. It was another step in the process of becoming the player she is clearly capable of being. Looking at the road ahead, Eala's momentum does not pause. Her next stop, the Catalonia Open in Lleida, sees her enter as the 6th seed. Stepping back to the challenger circuit might not headline the news, but it offers something she genuinely needs right now: matches she can win, confidence she can rebuild, and rhythm she can carry into the more demanding weeks ahead. Then comes the Italian Open, where returning to a venue with an early exit on her record adds its own quiet layer of pressure. But pressure, for a player like Eala, has never been something she shies away from. The French Open then becomes the defining test. Her second appearance in the Roland Garros main draw represents the kind of stage where everything that happened in Madrid fades into the background. Because on that court, in front of those crowds, the story has a chance to be rewritten entirely. None of the behind-the-scenes decisions that shaped her Madrid week will matter anymore. What will matter is whether she is ready, and every indication points toward yes, the match itself.
Players coming from respective countries, like she's coming from Philippines, which is now a big deal. She's been the biggest ever, tennis player from that country, which is a big country, and there's big interest. So things like that happen. I mean, it's you could argue that it was, maybe a poor schedule, and maybe they could schedule them on a bigger court. Yes, but again, she's so young and she's just coming through. So. And obviously the first couple rounds, the schedule is so packed, the big courts with big names, it's difficult.
The court size, the crowd energy, the atmosphere in the air, and even the quietest decisions made in scheduling offices can influence how a story unfolds. For Alex Eala, this chapter reads less like a setback and more like the opening act of something larger. The question is no longer whether she can recover. The evidence suggests she always does. The real question is what happens when everything lines up again. When the crowd is back in full voice, the stage is appropriately set, and the conditions reflect the magnitude of the player taking the court. Because when that alignment finally comes, the conversation will not be about a loss on a small court in Madrid. It will be about why anyone thought she could be quietly sidelined in the first place. Players like Alex Eala do not ease their way into the spotlight. They demand it with or without the invitation. And when the right moment arrives, the entire tour will be left wondering how they ever underestimated her to begin with.